Good evening, everybody. I call to order the Select Board meeting of Tuesday, May 20th, 2025. The meeting was set to start at 7:30. It's now 7:34. Let's see. So the meeting will be recorded by Smack Cable Television and broadcast live and may be live streamed at www.stoughtontv.org. The recording of the meeting, transcript or other comprehensive record of the proceedings will be posted on the town website and or SMAC as soon as possible after the meeting if the live broadcast or live streaming is unsuccessful. Times are approximate and items may be taken out of order at the chair's discretion. So we do see a quorum of the Select Board present. We have members Lou Gito, Vice Chair Deborah Roberts, Member McCrisky, and also Member Carrera, myself. So if you're able to rise, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. So we'll dive right in. Our comment section has been moved to the end of the meeting because we wanted to accommodate a couple of guests. So we're actually going to start off. We have from engineering a couple of items that they're bringing in front of us. The first one is to endorse the current proposal regarding Turnpike Street and Park Street intersection project. Votes may be taken.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good evening, Mark Tisdale, Town Engineer. With me tonight are our consultants, James Fitzgerald and Benny Hung from Apex Engineers, and Craig Horsfalls over there with the clicker for the presentation. We're in front of you tonight with the Park and Turnpike Street intersection design. Just a little history, if everybody remembers when we were doing the Park Street sewer project. You got a question? Oh, okay, all right, I thought there was a concern. Thank you, appreciate it. A few years back when we had the Park Street sewer project, we ran the sewer line down Campanelli Drive and all that, and there was concerns that there'd be more traffic due to all the excess development. One of the promises we made town meeting was to explore the Park and Turnpike Street intersection and address the existing traffic issues and future traffic issues if there were going to be some. So this is a result of really those proceedings, the Park Street sewer project, and you'll see tonight our findings. We hired Apex to pretty much go through and do a feasibility study and a preliminary design through Mass DOT. We call it feasibility preliminary design in our world, but Mass DOT calls it the ICE review stages 1 and 2. I don't know why they use names like that. They just like to confuse people, but essentially it's feasibility and preliminary design work we're doing right now. The full survey has been complete at the intersection. As we mentioned, the ICE evaluation, the preliminary design is complete. As part of Mass DOT's requirements, we are required to evaluate the intersection for a signalized intersection and a roundabout, and our consultants will get into the details of why in a little bit. And you will see the result. The result will be something different for Stoughton, definitely something different. But it is the preferred alternative through Mass DOT, and the details will be explained to you soon. If you are questioning the result, or you're alarmed or cautious about the result, so were Craig and I. We were very, very cautious about that result. And a roundabout in Stoughton is something that's different. It's not around in Stoughton, but it's very common in other areas of Massachusetts. So we forced Mass DOT to kind of go back through the process, and they actually allowed us to go back through the process and reevaluate again, and it came back as the preferred option. Again, our consultants will get into the details. The kind of the goal tonight is we're looking for input, a vote from the selectmen to endorse the alternative design, the preferred alternative design. And if you do not, that results in no project at that intersection. Essentially, if I'm off, our consultants will correct me, but that's essentially where we're at tonight. I'll hand off the presentation to James Fitzgerald and Benny Hung from Apex, and you can go through the details. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, as you all know, the intersection of Park and Turnpike is located on the eastern side of town, not too far off of the interchange with Route 24, and Park Street plays an important role as far as an arterial into town, carries a traffic flowing at a decent speed into the area. So the project really has multiple purposes and multiple goals to it. We want to address the poor traffic operations that's being experienced there today, address the safety concerns at the intersection that are related somewhat to the operations as well, decrease the amount of cut-through traffic that's avoiding the intersection because of the delays and difficulties of the intersection, provide accommodations not just for motorists but for pedestrians and bicyclists, and to allow for future potential for expansion in the area. So just running through some of the existing conditions that you see there every day. As I mentioned, there are poor operations at the intersection, and I'm sure you're all well aware of that. During the weekday peak periods, we are experiencing failing operations on the Turnpike approach, where the approach is stop sign controlled. During the evening peak hour, queues extend just over 500 feet into the distance. The operations difficulties of motorists traveling from Turnpike to Park are related to the lack of gaps in traffic along the heavy and fast-moving Park Street, and that's contributing certainly to the challenges. After experiencing delays, sometimes delays can contribute towards frustration, driver frustration, which may be related to some of the crashes at the intersection. The period that we had initially reviewed was a 3-year duration, 2016, 2018, finding that there are 13 crashes. Next, go through some of the deficiencies, geometric deficiencies at the intersection. It's a pretty flared open intersection where northbound Park Street motorists turning right onto Turnpike don't really have to turn their wheel all that much to make that right maneuver, right? It's a pretty flared open maneuver, which really contributes towards faster vehicle speeds, zipping around that corner. And it is certainly a very skewed intersection. Turnpike Street approaches Park at a skew. So as you're approaching Park via Turnpike, you really need to look, and you're looking to make a left turn, you really have to look over your right shoulder to really see those oncoming motorists coming. The flared open nature of the intersection results in pretty long pedestrian crossing distances. Here we have 2 crosswalks crossing just the Turnpike Street approach, 50 feet plus 70 feet. So it's pretty long when you think about this as just being a single approach, leaving those pedestrians exposed to motorists longer than they really should be, especially considering the fact that those northbound Park Street motorists are moving at a pretty decent speed. And there are no bike accommodations at the intersection, some inadequate street lighting there. And because of the challenges in navigating through the intersection for motorists approaching from Turnpike, motorists are some motorists have been observed avoiding the intersection and cutting through along 10th Street. So not ideal, certainly. The project is being advanced through the TIP process, the Transportation Improvement Program. This is a 5-year program using federal funds where the TIP would fund the construction and construction oversight of the project. The municipality is responsible for the engineered design as well as any needed right-of-way. So, as I'm sure many of you are aware, the Mass DOT process is somewhat long and rigorous. It starts with project initiation, leads into the intersection control evaluation, also known as ICE, and then it gets into the, it continues into the engineered design phases, the pre-25%, 25%, 75%, 100%, and then final plan spec and estimate. Right now, we're at the tail end of the ICE process. And so just to explain what the ICE process is, Mass DOT continues to evolve in its requirements. The ICE process is a way of evaluating control, intersection control in a way that is consistent, so that a number of different control measures can be compared to determine what the most appropriate one is. This is taking into consideration things like safety and crash history, traffic operations and delay, as well as costs associated with design, construction, and maintenance. So as part of this process, we consider unsignalized, signalized, and roundabout intersections. Of course, right now the intersection is unsignalized and not operating well. So we focused in on the, for proposed improvements, looking at the two scenarios of signalized and roundabout, as you can see here in the sketches. So Mass DOT has come up with an approach that compares dollars between the scenarios. So it compiles a dollar associated with intersection delay and safety, but also dollars associated with construction costs and maintenance as well. And based on this evaluation, this is really what is putting the roundabout at the forefront as far as the favored alternative. It's substantially less cost long-term with all these different factors incorporated than the signalized intersection. So that is what we're looking at. And if you look at a comparison of the different attributes between the roundabout and the traffic signal, certainly the roundabout is a bit more when it comes to design and construction costs. But when you look at operating and maintenance costs as well as safety, the roundabout surpasses the signalized alternative. So these are the things that are being considered. So just want to step aside a bit and talk about what is a roundabout to run through that, because there can be some confusion about that. So a roundabout is a traffic calming device that really effectively meters traffic through an intersection in an efficient manner. There's a time and a place for every treatment, certainly. But in the right locations, it is tends to be more efficient than a signalized intersection in many instances. Traffic travels in a counterclockwise direction. There are splitter islands on each of the approaches. This helps deflect the motorist to really turn the wheel and navigate through the intersection. Those splitter islands also serve to help as a point of refuge for pedestrians crossing the street. Pedestrians are able to cross one lane of traffic at a time at a location where traffic is already traveling at a slower speed given the geometry. That's basically the idea behind a roundabout. The intersection is designed to be tight really for passenger vehicles, but certainly has to accommodate those large trucks too, right? So you'll see that there's a truck apron around the centered green island. That truck apron is mountable by trucks, but would not be something that a passenger vehicle would typically want to travel over. It would not be a very comfortable experience. So that's what that's there for. It looks like a donut in the center of the circle. A roundabout is frequently confused with a rotary. Rotary and roundabouts are two different things. Rotaries are much larger in scale, as you can see on the slide. A rotary is designed more for speed, versus a roundabout is much tighter traffic circle designed to slow cars down. So lots of benefits on roundabouts. Certainly safety is at the top of the list. Motorists are traveling at a slower speed in an organized manner. So with slower travel speeds makes it better for pedestrians and cyclists who are trying to coexist within the right-of-way. There's a reduced number of conflict points for motorists. And crashes tend to the quantity of crashes tend to reduce with a roundabout versus a traffic signal. The types of crashes also change with a roundabout as well, because there's a tendency not to be angular or rear end collisions. There tends to be more sideswipe collisions, which are have less injury involved in them. So that's also a benefit to a roundabout. It makes it a more welcoming environment for pedestrians and cyclists, and can also be used as a gateway treatment. Gateway treatment can change the way that drivers travel, how aggressive they travel, as well as travel speeds. So if we look at Route 27, motorists coming off of 24 with a bit of a fast speed mindset heading towards the heart of town, with a roundabout, there's that tendency to change that driver behavior, slow down motorists who are heading from Route 24 towards the center of town a little bit more. This slide shows the roundabout concept in a bit more detail. So what we're showing is that based on the traffic volumes, the southbound Park Street approach would be provided with a second lane. All other approaches would be one lane each direction. You can see the green space in the center. That could be landscaping or greenery. That red brick color surrounding the center circle, that would be that truck apron that I was talking about earlier. On the three approaches, you see the triangular island. Those would be the splitter islands where pedestrians would it would be a point of refuge for pedestrians as they cross through one lane of traffic at a time. So in summary, with the roundabout concept, what we're finding is a great improvement in operations. So what used to be a failing operation on Turnpike Street is now a very good operation with minimal delay. Overall, the intersection would operate at a good operation of level service B or C, which is very good. As a result of that, there would be less of a tendency for motorists trying to avoid this intersection from approaching Park Street from Turnpike Street, hopefully reducing cut-through traffic on surrounding neighborhoods. The gateway treatment could serve to change the driver behavior as motorists are continuing to travel along Park Street. Intersection would have increased capacity for future development. The project would address the geometric deficiencies at the intersection, including providing improvements for pedestrians and for bicycles. This slide shows a potential timeline for the project going through the TIP process. My apologies about, it seems as if the fonts didn't translate well between computers, but hence the overlapping text. But in the end, at this point in time, the project would be slated for a potential construction in spring of 2029. And that concludes the presentation.
Thank you very much for your presentation. We'll start with questions from the board. Mr. Carrera?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the engineers. I don't know if, I've lived on Park Street a long time. And my garage is down in the bottom before Dead Man's Curve where the yellow flashing light is. When they come down that hill, they're probably doing 55, some of them are 60 in the cars. That's what you have approaching this from the Brockton side, from the south. You're probably going to need 150 feet of maybe something flashing to slow these people down in there, because you're going to have some horrendous crashes when you see a 53-footer, big twin screw coming out there and doing his job, and then they're coming. So if there isn't like early morning, there's going to be no way this thing's going to win.
Right.
I mean, at least a set of lights stops everybody. But I'd be petrified to cross that road if I was a pedestrian. You press the lights out here, and people don't care.
Right.
And they're only doing probably 20 coming at them. These cars, they'll get used to it, and it'll be like Canton, the guy that went up through the middle of it. You know, that's the only concern I have, is that we get something vibrant to slow them down.
Sure. I think that's a good point that you bring up, that I think that there could be other measures to alert motorists to slow down in advance, and I'm sure that would probably be something that would evolve through the process. Certainly the driver behavior that's out there now is vehicle-centric, I guess you could say, right? So it would be a matter of changing that perception, definitely. It would have to be something that would alert motorists ahead of time. Certainly would not want any surprises for motorists to all of a sudden be, you know, in this sort of predicament. So there would have to be some sort of advanced treatments.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McCrisky?
Probably too many questions for tonight, though. I can't see it working. I shared this with the engineer. 2 years, you only figured 13 crashes there? And what data was that from?
I believe that was from Mass DOT data. And as the process advances into the pre-25%, there'll be a lot more depth getting into the crash data, as well as traffic volume data and analysis. Again, that would be in the pre-25% phase.
Okay. You mentioned a reduction in neighborhood cut-through. Get a little deeper on that, because I don't know, I don't follow you on that.
So look, I don't know if I have a graphic of it, but looking at, there was a concern in the past having to do with cut-through traffic on 10th, motorists avoiding the Turnpike Park intersection. Motorists who had a concern or seemed to be avoiding approaching Park Street from Turnpike Street because of the long queues, because of the challenges in breaking into Park Street traffic. So as a result, that had been something that the town had been looking into in the past.
Okay. What data do you have to back that comment up about 10th Street?
Well, I think, Joe, we had some public meetings on that in the past, and we had residents on 10th Street that came to our meetings that were concerned about the vehicles who were stopped in the queue, and now they get used to just going there and waiting forever to try to get on Park Street, so they just do a cut through 10th Street and then come down Park Street.
Right, and that's not going to change. It's a shorter route.
I think as people travel there, if they know they can get through the intersection in a quicker fashion, I think they'll go through the quickest way possible.
As I shared with you briefly, Mark, when we talked, what data do we have that says this is gonna, I think it's gonna clog traffic up even more? Roundabout there at that location, I mean, as you know, my experience, I mean, I've got a little bit, I'm not to your extent on traffic design, but I've driven the roads, I do accident investigations on roads like this with tractor trailers. I know there's collisions there, but you're gonna have people queuing up either way coming in 27. Whole problem with this thing is Mass Highway in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts has not lived up to their expectations to do something with 24. Stoughton is a cut-through. We've tried to deal with with Turnpike Street. We were told by District 5 that you're never going to touch that because that's the alternate route when 24 gets backed up. So how's this roundabout going to make a difference when 24 gets clogged up and we're getting probably 40% more traffic than we would normally get, and it blocks up 27? It's not going to make a difference. So what are we looking to improve? I don't see improvements being better than what it's going to cause. And you're going to have traffic queuing up to 10th Street. I mean, people, let's face it, people drive now. There's no personal responsibility. People do whatever they want. And that's going to be very difficult for us to change somebody's attitude. And a roundabout versus what we have there now, I'd rather just see a signalization with shorter queues on, to keep people moving. We see it here. Stoughton Center, we put a set of lights here. Now we're getting traffic at 5 o'clock that backs up to the other intersection when we didn't have lights. I mean, I know that throughout it works better. But, I mean, when I see 13 collisions in 2 years, I challenge that. I'd like to see, see those reports because I think it's a lot more than that. And the types of collisions they are is people, again, I know they jackrabbit, they try to make it through, they all do that, but that traffic count's not going to change on Park Street. So all we're going to get is longer queues. So, I mean, what are we looking to do here? If we're looking to make it safer, your numbers don't back that up, that it needs this type of a project to improve safety. So what's the end goal? I mean, really, what is it? Is it going to make it smoother, safer? I don't know, because you're picking in 2 years 13 collisions. That to me is not worth a couple $1 million project. How is it going to, and honestly, this is just me speaking as one member of this select board, I don't care how long it takes people to get through my town. I don't care. I care about the integrity of our community, which right now is being assaulted because of the Commonwealth's lack of a traffic plan overall, and no connection to municipal governments. So, I mean, I'm really sick and tired. I think I could speak for at least one member of this board that we're watching our town go downhill in the quality of the roads and so forth because of the amount of traffic that goes through the town now. We spent how much on the South Coast Rail? They haven't touched 24. We know historically that the traffic counts are going deeper and deeper down 24. When I was on this board 10 years ago, we saw the numbers where they were just starting to creep up at Route 140 coming in. Mark, how long does it take you to get in the morning now? Right? I mean, it's ridiculous on that. The Commonwealth has failed to do anything as those queues are getting longer and longer on 24 to do anything to broaden 24, to look at some type of a rail right down the middle. As you probably know, we have plenty of room on 24 where lanes can be added. They've failed to do that, but yet they're trying to come into the municipal people on, and we're not the only town that's having this problem, is that we're solving those problems. And I just don't see this making a difference. I mean, I don't know what is our goal, to make it safer for 13 crashes?
If you don't mind.
Sure.
So I hear your concerns, Joe, and I'll be honest with you. When we first saw this was the preferred alternative, Craig and I were just as concerned. And we went back through the process again and got more educated. And I'm still on the cautiously optimistic phase. I'll be honest with you, I'm not sold on this 100%, but I do trust the process. I trust the engineers that we've had all these traffic projects worked on and have improved our community. I also have first-hand experience in Freetown with a high crash intersection right down the street from me with a rotary. I had the same thought, like they're putting a rotary in there. Are you kidding me? that people are going to fly through the middle of the rotary. County Road is the busiest, people speed on County Road, just straight away in Freetown. They put the rotary in, there's no crashes. How do trucks get in through there? I was just as concerned as you. They have that apron. Trucks get around there just fine. I see them, they're mounting it, the wheels like halfway on the apron, and they get through it. And people get accustomed to it. So for those reasons, I have faith in this, and I also have faith in our engineers, that they're guiding us in the right direction here. And that's the faith I have right now. I do trust engineers. I do trust my experience going through the rotary. So that's why I'm cautiously optimistic with this approach.
Oh, I'd like to see more information. I'd like to see one that was done. I'd like to look at traffic counts pre. I'd like to see accident reports post. Show me the money.
Yeah. And I just wanted to comment on what you said before about vehicles cutting through your community. I agree 100%. We work mostly for municipalities, and looking after their best interests. And that's a real concern that we've heard in the past, and we've been seeing it more and more regularly. One thing I will say is that right now motorists on Park Street are flying through past this intersection without blinking, right? And so it's really the motorists coming out from Turnpike that are having the problem. By putting in any treatment, whether it be a roundabout or a signal, it is controlling or delaying to some degree the motorists on Park Street and greatly improving the access for motorists coming from Turnpike. So in a way, it's delaying maybe some of that cut through traffic a little bit more and allowing the motorists coming out from Turnpike to have a chance with the signal or the roundabout, quite honestly.
Well, my challenge to that is, what traffic counts do you see during the commuting hours in that area? Have you done some counts?
Yes.
Okay. What are you seeing coming in from the Brockton area to Stoughton between, I'll say 6:30 and 8:30? You have those numbers?
I would have to look them up, yes. I don't know them up.
It is a conga line, without a doubt. And now you're going to slow it down. The speed is there, so when they're leaving Brockton, they're going to come flying up 27, and it's going to queue up because now you're slowing traffic consistently, and we have the high traffic counts. You're going to have traffic backups going down. They'll be going through slow, but I just don't see it. I don't see it, and I think this is not something I'm prepared to vote on tonight. I'd like to have a lot more. I'd like to see things. I'd like to see, because again, the one that I got to say, and I'll say to. Where'd he go? Where'd Craig fly off to? Right behind you? Oh, it's sitting over there behind the TV. All right. Because I saw one time and I understood. I saw a piece of land. Craig, you're right. It's pitched the right direction. And I don't know. I trust these guys to tell me this stuff, but this one here, even because of what I know in my job, it concerns me greatly. I want to see a lot more. I want to see a project that was done before, that had counts, showing me that it's not resulting in it backing up. I don't see it as much from Stoughton going to Brockton in the morning as it is Brockton coming into Stoughton. I counted one day 72 cars in a small area that were all just coming in right on each other's tails, coming in from Brockton. 72 cars, because I do drive out that way quite often in the morning. So when you slow that 72 down in a small area, and it was maybe about just under, not even a half a mile, 72 cars in that stretch. Now you have cars queuing up behind that's slowing down. You could be looking at 144 cars slowing down. Now, so that's what I'm looking at, basically what I see with my own eyes, and I travel the road a lot, and I've got some experience in this, not as much as you guys, without a doubt. You four people, not a doubt. But I'm in this spot, and I've got to do the right thing. I've seen the lights in the center of town work in some ways, and then we talk about people, we have truck drivers that can't seem to make the corner getting into the center of town from Pleasant Street because they don't get it. They don't know how to drive. But that's what we're getting now. We're getting a lot more inexperienced drivers. People are very uncomfortable in large amounts of traffic. They get nervous. They don't respond correctly. There's so many things that affect, people's mentality behind the wheel. You know, and when we add another challenge to an already challenged road, I can't see the benefit. So I'm open, I'm always open. Mark gets to me very easily. You know, we can sit and talk turkey when we're away from these things a little bit more graphically. But I do listen. I just don't see it here. I really don't see it here. I'd like to see a lot more before I'm ready to vote. So, sorry for taking so much time.
Not at all. Mr. Gito.
Thank you. I think there have been a number of concerns expressed, and I think there are a lot of places in this country that have similar kinds of designs. I think you should look at a number of them, figure what the traffic is on those, and come back in a few months with more detail in that regard. I mean, I've seen some of these things, they seem to work, but I don't know what the traffic volume is, where they work, and where they don't. But I think you're going to have a hard time dealing with this issue without providing examples. And there's got to be hundreds of them. Maybe you need to just take a little bit of time and get that information.
Yes, there are many roundabouts, and in the area, lots being built. Right now, we're doing another one for a TIP project in Abington, actually. So certainly lots of examples. We have collected traffic data and analyzed it in the model software to evaluate the roundabout based on industry standards. But yes, we'll be happy to provide you with examples, also with statistics on reduction in crash rates at some of these locations where there are studies available, certainly.
Not just from Massachusetts, but other
Right,
parts of the
course,
country
yes.
as well.
Totally, yes.
I think you want to get on that. I think you want to get on that soon. It would be nice to be able to have this intersection improved.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't have good information, we're probably going to have a very hard time
Right.
moving ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. That's totally fine. One thing I will add is that roundabouts tend to be for communities that don't have much experience with roundabouts, they can be something that is initially received negatively. And so I'll also provide you with that information as well, how the perception changes from having it. I happened in my own hometown when we first got our first roundabouts. I had many people approaching me saying, we actually got two at the same time, near each other even. And I had many people approaching me saying, isn't that ridiculous? I can't believe they put in those rotaries. And so within, I'd say 2 months, every one of them came back and said, wow, it's so much better now. I could never get out of that side street. It flows so great. Wow, that's great. I was wrong. So there's a time and place for everything.
I agree with you. I mean, I've seen improvements in traffic in other areas with these.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that you're going to sell it.
Right.
Unless you put the effort in.
And just so you know, I'm not here to sell anything. I'm working for you. So
But let me say that differently then. I mean, we have got to come to a good conclusion.
yes, collectively, yes, I agree.
I'm not opposed to this as a decision. But in order to get people behind it, you have got to have the information that people need. And you've heard a lot to indicate what kind of information you need, and just produce it and be done with it.
Yeah, we'll do, certainly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gino. Vice Chair Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, to the engineers. Welcome, and thank you for the presentation. We've talked about crash rate, speed, getting more data, but I wanted to zero in on the geometry. And if we could turn to slide existing conditions, and I would like you to actually walk me from existing conditions to the MassDOT's preferred alternative. And I'm really focused on street width, so that's the geometry, because your diagram doesn't really show, and I guess
This one or the
it
proposed?
says existing conditions with the one that has the 50 feet and the 70 foot.
Oh, that was the pedestrian crossing. Where was that?
Go back.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm going the wrong way. There we go.
There we are. So, as an example, so if we're looking at from I guess from a teacher's perspective, are you saying you're going to widen this, make it the roundabout here? Can you just point that out, draw it out, like from an engineer perspective?
Yeah, so I'm
And I'll
just,
just sit down.
yeah, sure. I'm just going to the center, right, orientation of the figures in here. So this is going to be a circle around this area. And luckily, the right of way for this Park Street is pretty wide. So even though this is looks like grass on the owned by the line property, but actually this area is majority of it owned by the town. So
That's what I was getting at. Who owns that?
it is, I know, when I look at it, it's kind of confusing, where, how can you see a circle like that? There's more footprint to get a big circle, but actually, we are going to the people's farm, the alley is town property. So only like if a small area that, look at one of the pictures, there might be some infringes to the, private property, but some of the detail can be worked around. As far as the majority of the circle, will be built in the town property. So that's why it's really deceiving from this time to that one. So once you take and it comes just from a small over. But definitely the reflection will be so far a lot. And make it more easier for each for the turnpike approaches coming to it. Yeah, because they all go to one direction. So then all the site distance will be a lot improving for the site distance.
There you go.
So that's
This
a-
actually shows what Benny was talking about. The red lines depict the right-of-way lines, and you can see how much space is there, actually.
Yeah, so this is kind of where the existing pavement is, so this is all the grass. So this, actually, this area is all owned by the town. So, yeah, same thing with this one.
Thank you very much for the clarification. That's the only question I have at this time, but I am interested in the answers to the other questions that the previous board members had. Thank you.
If I could just add to that real quick, one last comment, Mr. Chairman. Craig and I actually walked around the neighborhood over there, because there's a guy who owns the camper right over there right where he probably thought that was his front lawn, but it's not, it's the town property. And he was excited about the project, and so were the couple other neighbors in that area, because he's seen so many crashes over time. We thought it was prudent to actually knock on the door and show them plans, because they will be impacted by this, and they were aware of it, so.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Chair Roberts. So I have a couple questions. I do want to start by saying that I'm generally in favor of roundabouts. I think that this personally, I like this project. I start by saying that. I do want to say also, though, that in my life, I've only been in a couple of accidents, and every single time I was stopped at a red light and hit by somebody else, right? So I've never been in an accident. I'm a very cautious driver. But I can tell you, I'm always get a little bit anxious when I go into a roundabout. And maybe I don't have enough experience with them. I don't know. I've been driving for a while. I've done a bunch, but whenever I get into them, I'm always just like, oh geez, you know, and just more mindful. The idea of stopping at a red light and going at a green light is just feels like it's less anxious for me, for whatever that might be worth. I think that's probably the cause of a lot of people's resistance, is that sense of anxiety of going into a roundabout, especially in a town that doesn't have one. But I think that the data's really crystal clear. Like, roundabouts aren't a new invention. They've been around since the 1700s. And the fact is that, like, the data is really clear that they reduce accidents, that they increase the traffic flow in areas where they're put in. Also, as we, you know, the cost of signaling isn't outrageous, but to the extent that we have signals all over town, it is a lot of electricity. And if we can get the same benefits of a traffic light without having to have the infrastructure implanted, and also to maintain the lines and pay for the electricity, that's a benefit to everybody, generally speaking. So I'm a big fan of it. I do have a couple of questions, and some of these I think are addressed, but my eyesight's gotten especially bad over the last couple of years, so I want to make sure I'm understanding what I'm seeing. One is about the bicycle paths. The picture I have in front of me is a little bit small, but what it looks like is, as you're coming down Park Street, let's say you're heading towards town.
Yeah, so this way area is where to be elevated, separate bike lane there. So it's going to be like a shade.
Yeah, that's what I thought I was seeing, that basically you're coming off the road for a little while, so the bikes are essentially not really part of the whole calculus of the
They're
roundabout.
outside the road. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. One of the things, so there's now a project to build a school not too far from this intersection. And so, you know, school buses coming in and out of this is going to be a reality for the town. And, you know, once again, I trust the math, I trust the engineers. But the vehicles that are longer, larger, making it through this roundabout, how do you consider that? Is this going to be tight? Are there going to be plenty of room?
Yes, so the roundabout would be designed for tractor trailers, which are obviously much larger than school buses. So those tractor trailers would be using the truck aprons that are shown in red. And you can actually see a corner as well in red that would also be mountable in order to accommodate those different sized vehicles. So, yeah, the school bus would certainly be accommodated.
Not surprised, but at the same time, I have trouble visual.
Right.
That is for people in Stoughton. That's going to be a very typical path for ambulances to be making their way over to our closest hospitals.
Right.
And so that's just something that I want to be mindful of.
Yes.
Along with, so fire trucks aren't necessarily an issue. Ambulances and police, though they won't be impeded by the roundabout based on the size and the geometry of it. The fact that that area actually does slow down traffic is a consideration for both response times and also being able to get people to ambulances or to hospitals via the ambulance, but also any sort of emergency call for the police, especially if there's a need for them to get over to the elementary school that's going to be built. They might have to bypass this altogether, or maybe it's not as bad as I'm imagining. But was that sort of built into the math of this as well?
So the emergency vehicles would have to slow down to navigate the circle. The intent, though, is that, you know, there would not be long queues or motorists that would be in the, obviously that motorists pull aside, but they would have to go through at a slower pace than if it was just a straight road, obviously, because they have to slow down to turn through it. But the reason that, again, that we had to add that southbound Park Street lane is to have adequate capacity for motorists to keep moving through the roundabout, because Mass DOT would not that we would want anything different, but they are very sticklers for operations to make sure that adequate operations would be provided. So the emergency vehicles would be able to get through.
Excellent. And though there's no way, I couldn't, intuit this necessarily, but it seems to me reasonable to argue that, or at least possible to argue, that the slowdown of the emergency vehicles still probably wouldn't be any worse than if they were, backed up at red lights and they were trying to make their way through an intersection anyway. So it's not to say that they might have to slow down. It's not to say they would have had a straight shot anyway.
That's true. Full disclosure with signals, there's always the Opticom equipment where the phasing changes for them approaching when, if all is working well. So I would not anticipate navigating through a roundabout would be that much longer of a delay for an emergency vehicle. Would they have to slow down to navigate to turn right? Yes, but I don't know what that would equate to. I don't think very much, like a second. I don't know. I have no idea.
Sure. So those were all kind of like on the scale of like 1 to 10, sort of like sub 5 level concerns, but just kind of curious to know what your thoughts were. The only one that I'm actually like a little bit more concerned about is snow removal, and the fact that roundabouts create snow traps that make it actually especially hard to remove snow. Still might be worth it, in the grand scheme of things. But my understanding is that Mass DOT really doesn't address snow removal or snow traps in roundabouts as part of their planning. And I was wondering, and I could be wrong, but I'm just kind of curious, with projects like this that you've seen in the past, how is that usually addressed?
Honestly, I have not heard complaints from local DPWs on plowing. They obviously have to raise the blade when they plow the truck apron because it's an elevated area. As far as removing the snow, it would just have to be, there's probably a greater area of snow removal if you look at a roundabout compared to a conventional intersection, including the truck apron area. Sure, snow could be stockpiled in the center of the green space if depending on what ends up there, but they figure it out. It hasn't been a problem from what I have been told. I've not heard horror stories about that at all.
Excellent. So I put this in my notes because I didn't want to forget it, but I do want to reiterate, I'm in favor of this project. I think ultimately it's the way we need to go. I did have a couple concerns. With a new elementary school being built nearby, we have a new fire station very close to this intersection. And also, we've just put a sewer down Park Street. I think that over the next 10 years, we're going to see a lot of growth in this area. And I think probably as this is coming up, you'll see growth around it. I think being proactive and getting this worked through now is a benefit. I drive this way all the time. I find that when I come out of Stoughton towards Brockton, I always take Park Street, always. And when I head back home, I always take Turnpike. And, I was actually thinking about this the other day. I was like, why do I always take Turnpike when I'm heading back? It's because it's very easy to get on a Turnpike, but it's very hard to get off of it, right?
Exactly.
And so sort of intuitively, I never use it. And so I'm coming through the center of town and, creating traffic, sort of contributing to traffic in this downtown so I don't have to make this turn. It's also subconscious, but I can tell you it's absolutely happening. I know I'm doing it, and probably if I'm doing it, a lot of people are. Sure. So I see the benefit of it. 2 questions I have. I think this was stated at the very beginning. Our options with regard to this project are, roundabout, or it stays exactly the way it is. There is no option to signal this intersection, correct?
The ICE process would need to continue with some justification for the signal. Resistance to the notion of a roundabout is something that Mass DOT is well aware of. So there would have to be justification to tilt the scales, if you will, with the ice evaluation, and continue the conversation. Never say never.
I'd like to jump in on that answer if I could.
Sure.
And I called this slide back up. We kind of, glossed over this one when we were going through the presentation. It's kind of a boring looking slide, but if you really look at the timeline here, we've been in this process, this ICE process, for well over a year, right? We started back in February of 2024 with a waiver request because we felt that a signal was the obvious answer, right? So we were denied that from MassDOT. They said, no, you need to go through the ICE process. You need to evaluate the intersection, which we did. And we got the results in ICE Stage 1. And we said, really? Not a signal? Let's go back. And we went to ICE Stage 2. And we've gone through the process even more in depth. So I think that should give the board some comfort that, first of all, we've really examined this, deeply through this process. And there is a lot of data that didn't make it into this slideshow tonight, but it is available and we have looked at it. But it has been a long, arduous process to get to this point, and we're at ICE Stage 2. And the likelihood of getting a different answer in ICE Stage 3, the odds are dropping off.
Thank you. And I just have one more question for myself. So my general sense is I think that the board is very curious, skeptical, and would probably like a little bit more information. But I want to make sure that I'm also mindful of any deadlines, deliverables that you guys have. Do you, the completion of this project is 5 years out, so I probably don't need a vote tonight necessarily. But can you tell me, you have a basic idea of when you actually do need this to be, a go, no-go decision made?
Schedule. Okay, here we go. At this point, I don't think there is a firm date. I will say that the 2029, there's a lot to take place between now and the construction. And so I would say that if we were to maintain that spring 2029 construction date, it's not an emergency by any stretch. Let's make a good, sound decision. But I don't think I would delay the process too much further, especially as was mentioned about how far out we already are, and we're still, on the tail end of ICE. So I would say as soon as possible. Is that a fair statement?
I think it's fair. Everybody mentioned very good points tonight. You want more information.
Yeah.
We're going to get you that information, some comparables, a little more data, and put that in front of you at another future meeting, so you can make a better decision.
Well, if we really dive into this in June and sort of have an answer by maybe the end of June, is that reasonable? Okay, because we have the benefit of having a lot of members of the board who have expertise in areas that are very relevant to what you're trying to accomplish. So, thankfully, I'm not one of them, but maybe that's why I made up my mind so quickly. But the fact is, I think we have a lot of expertise that could really help to, get us to a good place. And I just think that they're hungry for the information, and they'll be able to ingest it and understand it better than I can. But hopefully, if I'll get this back out, we'll have this on an agenda for the last meeting in June. And If everyone feels ready by then, we'll move forward. If they still need more time, then we'll take more time. But that gives us at least something to target. I see Ms. Walsh, but I'm going to give another member of the board an opportunity to ask some more questions. I think Mr. Carrera had some questions. It's up to you.
I don't see how I'm going to vote for this if we don't get some kind of signalization, warnings for these cars that are coming up here to approach this. It's going to be all new, and they're not going to learn in a month. I can guarantee you they'll be going through it, and they'll still be speeding up to it the next time. There's got to be something, and they'll just have to pay for it. You know, they want to use us as a guinea pig, because I can tell you right now, I've been through almost all the roundabouts that you're talking about in this area. And North Quincy Street doesn't even compare to this. You're talking about a major, major Route 27. And I was talking at one of the meetings, I asked if the town manager could speak for us and call like Channel 5 and 25, and 25 is the worst offender. Whenever there's something, they go, maybe you can jump off on a 27. You can go around, maybe 138. Where do they all go? They all end up in Stoughton Center. So figure that out, right? The volume on the street is unbelievable. I can't get out of my driveway sometimes because there's 8 cars coming from my right, and then they're coming down the hill from Brockton. So sometimes you got to make a coin toss and get out there. When you're moving a fully loaded 72,000-pound dump truck out of my yard, you don't do it fast, so you better wait and wait and wait. I've had traffic backed up in front of my house because of the 2 lights that are at Brockton. The main intersection at Chestnut Street there, and the next one, which is at Burger King. Those lights, 5 cars go, everything jams up. 5 cars go, somebody comes out of McDonald's and does something stupid and blocks all the lanes. Next thing you know, it's all the way back, past Joe's work, past my garage, to the front of my house. So I don't know if this is going to work. I'm open to ideas, but some of the ones you're talking about are nowhere measure up to what the magnitude of this is. The size of this one, just in the spread, you could put 2 of North Quincy Street, maybe 3 of them across it. It's so tight. I drive that one all the time. My wife goes to Norwell. That's how I showed her how to go. It's a real easy way to go, but that's a tight, tight one. As far as the snow, I can assure you, they're not going to pile anything in the middle of that intersection on the green space. That stuff sits there, it's going to melt out, it's going to block vision. Nobody in his right mind would even make that statement. And I've been plowing snow since I was 8. My father would kill me if I did something like that. How they plow that is 2 trucks are outfitted with rubber blades. They're the ones driving on the rough stuff. They don't run the steels on it, they run the rubber. That's how that gets fixed. Maybe you want to put that in your book so the next time you can tell them that's how you do it. Never do you plow anything into the middle of an intersection. That's death. But the signals, you're going to need something. I don't know how people are going to cross those roads without something for the pedestrians. It's that dangerous. You should just hang out there for a while. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Walsh.
Cynthia Walsh, 1096 Park Street. And I realize this is not a public hearing. And I see there is going to be one eventually, and God willing, I'll be there. I have a point of historical information, as I've lived there since 1948. The present design was designed by the federal government during the Eisenhower years to be safer, because people at the intersection of Park and Turnpike were being killed. There were fatal accidents there. So what's there now is considered by the federal government a vast improvement. But that was a long time ago. And Turnpike Street was a gravel road, and there was no Route 24. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the, some context. No, it's helpful. I know you live right, a couple of kilometers away from that, so I figured it'd be helpful to hear what you had to think. Is anybody else from the board who has any questions or comments?
No,
Nope.
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so we'll get that scheduled for late June, and my hope is that members of the board will reach out with more specific questions and give you an opportunity to pull together whatever data information they need to help them make an informed decision on this. But I thank you very much for your time, and also the PowerPoint presentation was really actually very excellent, so I just want to give some credit where that very helpful. Thank you.
We appreciate it, Mr. Chairman and the board. We're not surprised. We expected this. Okay? So it's actually better than I thought. But we'll get you the information, and we'll come back to the board so you can make a better decision in the future. Thank you.
Of course, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You have a public hearing now, so we'll get moved probably.
I think we have you again, right? This is for the approval, to approve current complete street prioritization plan?
Yeah, you do. That is next, but I think you have a public hearing, I thought, at 8:30.
You guys can wrap it up. We'll do
Okay.
the public hearing right after that.
There's nowhere but up, right?
We'll see.
Thank you.
Is it this one?
Thank you.
Speculate.
Well, I apologize. I didn't realize you'd be waiting for me. I thought we'd be well underway by now. All right. All right. On to the next project. In front of you tonight is the Complete Streets Prioritization Plan. This should be a little more straightforward than the previous discussion. This we've vetted with the public several times. There was flyers handed out at the 3 previous town meetings for public surveys. Facebook blast with the flyers for surveys, something in the town crier, things of that nature. Essentially what we're trying to complete here is our Complete Streets Priority Plan. It's our traffic management plan for the next 5 or 10 years. In front of you tonight, you'll see about 15 projects that resulted out of that public survey. None of them are going to be earth-shattering to you. They're all projects that you've probably heard complaints about in the past from the public. The engineers will go through on how we ranked and weighted those projects, but it's pretty straightforward information. It's pretty cut and dry stuff, but it's pretty straightforward. We have updated our Complete Street Prioritization Plan from 2016. We already had one. The problem was we got most of the projects complete. We finished most of the projects on that plan, so now we're in the spot of updating it, and that's why we're here tonight. I'll hand it over to our engineers.
Thank you very much. So first, just want to run through the basics of what are complete streets. So we're looking at providing accommodations for all modes of transportation, not just motorists, but pedestrians, cyclists, transit users, for all ages and abilities, and trying to achieve a good balance along roadways. So they're not just vehicle-centric, they allow an adequate setting for all users. So complete streets projects would include accommodations for pedestrians like sidewalks, crosswalks with curb extensions that improve sight lines to motorists. It would include bicycle accommodations, whether they be in-road or out-of-road, motorist accommodations to calm traffic, making it more a better setting for bikes, pedestrians, transit users, and last but not least, transit accommodations, things like stops, and depending on where you are, of course. Lots of well-documented benefits of complete streets, certainly safety being at the top of the list, providing locations where formalized accommodations are provided have shown to have less crashes with those users, bikes, pedestrians especially. By having these healthy modes of transportation, obviously there are health benefits to it. Studies have shown local economies in certain areas where there's retail have benefited from these sorts of transformative projects, and last but not least, quality of life, community building opportunities, and things like that. So Mass DOT has come up with the Complete Streets funding program several years ago now, and Stoughton has been involved for quite a long time. Their funding program was really geared at encouraging municipalities to consider complete streets treatments as they continue to maintain and upgrade their transportation facilities, using a community-wide perspective and identifying projects that made sense and are feasible to construct. It's a three-tier process that the town had gone through. Tier 1 was the training and complete streets policy, which has been adopted a long time ago now. Tier 2, the complete streets prioritization plan the town had prepared last was in 2017. So it's been several years, and as Mark had mentioned, lots of projects have been constructed, which is really impressive. So time for an upgrade on that. And Tier 3 is the part where town solicits funding, $500,000 per round for complete streets improvements to construct them. So the prioritization plan really serves as a roadmap for future improvements, opportunities for projects, building off of previous evaluations and studies and efforts, and identifying locations where, again, feasible improvements could be made to provide accommodations that really benefit the community. Ultimately, the list of projects are prioritized using different evaluation criteria. So getting into the process, first we reviewed the old 2017 prioritization plan and the number of projects that had already been constructed. We identified key points of interest, looking at downtown retail areas, playgrounds, parks, schools, etc., and identified how the existing bike and pedestrian map works with those. Then we solicited public input using the public comment tool, allowing the public to contribute information on where there have been safety concerns, near crashes or crashes, dangerous driver behavior experienced, missing sidewalks, ADA ramps, crosswalks, bicycle accommodations, or other sorts of hazards that are concerning. And in the end, we ended up by getting 177 comments, which was great to get that input and feedback. The most comments had to do with missing sidewalks. Just over 40% of all the comments had to do with locations where sidewalks were missing. Another 20% had to do with dangerous behavior, locations where there were dangerous behavior. So those were the top two types of comments received. As far as where the comments were most located, you can see in this heat map, it was mostly in the center of town, right in Stoughton Center. So then we identified projects, looking at where we have existing sidewalk and bike mostly sidewalk accommodations, and where we could extend them to, extend them to different destinations, and then also taking a look at intersection locations and how they play into the prioritization plan and providing that continuous accommodation through the network. And last was prioritizing the projects using a pretty structured approach, which was based on this pie chart. We looked at things, we looked at safety benefits that the project would provide, how it might expand the network, the increased access to points of interest that would provide, parks, playgrounds, et cetera. How constructible is it? Is it a feasible project to build? Where did it stand in public priorities, like from the public comment tool? Project costs, and last but not least, how the different modes of transportation kind of work together to complete the network. So each one of these pieces of the pie had different point structures, very structured point structures, to allow us to take a real unbiased kind of look at the priorities of the project and use this as a tool towards establishing the prioritization of the list. In the end, there were 29 projects. This just happens to list the top 15 projects. I won't go through them all now unless you'd like me to. And we also mapped out where all the projects are. This slide actually just shows the top 15 as well. You can see the line segments, which are either mostly sidewalk projects or bicycle lanes. The circles depict places where there are intersection improvements. Sometimes the projects included intersection and sidewalk, or just one or the other. So that is the prioritization plan approach and summary.
If I could just add one piece of information, Mr. Chairman. This is actually good information. In 2016 is when the state came up with the Complete Streets program, and Stoughton was the first grant they ever issued for a Complete Streets project in 2017. And it was for the sidewalk on Central Street, not the big one on the south side, but the one on the north side. It was a $400,000 grant we received because we had an approved Complete Street prioritization plan. So we look forward to updating this and applying for Complete Street grants in the future. That's kind of the reason why we're doing this. And it's always good to work from a plan as opposed to just certain people coming up with certain projects at a certain time. We can now focus to our plan and say, is it on our plan? The one key point from this plan is it doesn't mean number one is the first project we do. It just means we have an approved Complete Streets priority plan, and if we're doing another project and we can fill in the gap and apply for a Complete Streets grant. For example, right now they're working on the 138 project, and from Monk to Lincoln Street is town owned. We want the geometry of that street to match what they're doing right up the street. So that would be probably our first Complete Streets grant that we would apply for. That was on our old plan. We just applied for that this week. So we hope it'll get that Complete Street project funded. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we'll move to questions from the board. Mr. McCrisky, do you have any questions? Mr. Kerr.
I'll make it simple. On the priority ranking, how can Turnpike Street sidewalk from Central Street to Cornell Drive be more important or placed above Cushing Street sidewalk to Simpson, Simpson Street to Canton Street, or Pearl Street from Cary to McAvoy Circle? The heavily traveled area for children anywhere, with the biggest sidewalk known to man already down Central Street to better that area. And we're thinking about putting Turnpike Street that we discussed was going to need major build-out, water main, possible sewer main, other things that coincide with that. How can you place that? That doesn't even, it's not even a priority. It should be moved to probably 13 and move the other ones up. I don't know, I was always taught that you start at your core, which would be the center, and you work out. I don't hear people screaming about a sidewalk on Turnpike Street except one person. And we have all these children, we're talking about the school and stuff like that, walking there. I just don't understand it. I understand it's a priority list. But you gotta, I look at it from a different retrospect, I guess.
So this is the result of the survey based on the criteria that there's. It's a very equation-type format. So like what you said, sometimes something that ranks high on an equation doesn't necessarily mean it's the priority of this board, who are the street commissioners of the
Yeah,
town.
but I rely on you to tell us.
Yeah.
I already know
Yeah.
what the priorities are. I don't have to be told. Just by looking at this, I can turn this thing around.
All right,
So
so that's,
Mr. Gito could too.
yeah, we're just
Because
basing it
we've
on a
discussed
public
this
survey,
before.
and we're telling you this is the list.
What I'm telling you is what's best for this town. I don't think spending $5 million down that street when you can better 4 other areas.
So we can modify the list according to the wish of the board. Again, it was based, we had to treat every project with the same criteria to rank it, to meet the complete street criteria. There was a lot of survey on that particular stretch. I don't know if that one particular person you're talking about walked the whole street and had everybody do a survey, but there was a lot of survey results for that project, and that's why it ranked higher.
If I interject for a second, I just have a very quick question. The prioritization criteria that you put in this pie chart, is that developed by us or is that developed by the state?
When we met with the consultants, the areas on the pie chart were defined. The percentages we could tweak up and down.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I just wanted to understand that better. Mr. Gito, do you have any questions? Nope. Vice Chair Roberts?
No, Mr. Chairman.
So I just have a couple of very quick questions, but I appreciate all your time and energy in putting this together. And it is, we can just go to the priority list. Number 5 on that list, that is the intersection of improvements at Turnpike and Park Street. That is in fact the project we just discussed. Is that okay? I was curious to make sure that it wasn't something else. And also, so I'll be frank, I'm not really too worried about the ranks because this is just sort of our, top 15 projects, and which one's first, one's third, really doesn't matter. We pick them off as we're able to, advocate for them, find funding for them. You kind of wait until the pieces all fall into place in one way or another, and that's how you will ultimately be picking these. So, so what's first versus what's 10th, hardly matters. This is your top 15, and that's kind of like the point for me, what I'm taking away. But I am curious a little bit about, the prioritization criteria, having things like public priority and safety benefits, representing essentially collectively about 30%. And things like network expansion, project costs, increased access points having like a greater proportion than things like safety and public priority. And I think it's probably, I don't want to speak for him, but it might be sort of what's happening with the disparity between what we see and as far as like the projects we would intrinsically or sort of instinctually prioritize versus the list we have. Like everyone knows Canton and School Street's like, or is it, I might have the street, it was, Washington and School Street, right? That's the one that's like mayhem all the time, right? There's also, there's a couple of streets where we just know there's a lot of accidents, and to not have them be like higher up on the list was, a little bit counterintuitive. But once again, I hardly care. It's the top 15. I'm curious about the number one. That actually is the one that kind of stands out to me. The Washington Street sidewalk and bike lanes from Monk Street to Lincoln Street. That's like one block. But that ends up being the highest priority. It's also, I know there's road work being done there at the same time. Is that the reason why that rose up in its priority?
Yeah, I mean, if you ever walk down there, the sidewalk's the worst sidewalk in town. The crosswalk goes into a vertical curb. It's part of the network expansion. We finished the downtown, everything to Brockton. The state's doing from Lincoln Street north. It's a gap in between all that. We figured it made sense to fill in the gap. That's why it came up to number one, because the project's under construction right now.
Yeah, okay, that's what makes sense. I know that the state's covering the cost for a lot of the improvements, and I think it's like that one block there actually like not involved with the.
It's a town. That's town.
Yeah.
Town roads.
So it's so paradoxical, right? They're doing the entire road except for one block, and then, but it makes sense why it would be a priority, even though it might be counterintuitive. This is actually one of the ones that is going to be we're going to be dealing with very soon. I have no other questions. Does anybody have any? Or have anything further? I do want to thank you again for your time and the effort that you put into providing us with some really solid information.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, did we need a vote on this? It says on the agenda, yes.
Yeah, so that you're asking, thank you very much, Vice Chair. This is for approval. You're looking for a vote to approve this?
Correct.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion to approve the current complete street prioritization plan, and a second made by Mr. Gito, seconded by Vice Chair Roberts. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Okay, so I think that is.
Abstentions?
Any abstentions? Okay, so that is, if I read it correctly, it's 4-1. So this is our plan. I thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you, Vice Chair Roberts. I really appreciate that. Okay. Next on our list is a sewer connection easement. This is 1044 Park Street. I believe the engineer for this, or project manager, Paul Seberg, is online. Mr. Seberg, how's it going?
Hello. Yes, I'm here. Paul Seberg from Grady Consulting. How are you?
We're doing well. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
We have some documentation in front of us. Talk us through the request.
Yeah, would you like me to share my screen at all, or
Sure.
Do you have the plans right in front of you? Whatever you prefer.
Feel free to share your screen. Thank you. We're able to see it.
All right, perfect. So this is the proposed sewer connection project located at 1044 Park Street. This is the site here that's proposing the connection. The applicant is proposing to install a 633-foot-long 2-inch force main within the Turnpike Street layout to connect to the existing sewer main located here at the intersection of Campanelli Parkway and Turnpike Street. The proposed sewer connection has been reviewed by the sewer department, and we are requesting a 28-foot wide easement, 705 feet long within the Turnpike Street layout here to make that connection and to construct and maintain that sewer force main. So with that said, I'd be happy to turn it over to questions from the board.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions from the board? Okay, I'm seeing none. So is there a motion to approve this easement?
Second?
The motion was made by Mr. Gito, seconded by Vice Chair Roberts. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, this is a unanimous vote. Thank you very much, Mr. Seberg. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you so much. Be well.
Frank, thanks for all your help.
There are easement documents in the packet that need to be endorsed by the board.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
So I want to just thank the members of the public who are here for the public hearing. Sorry we're starting a little bit behind, but I appreciate your patience. For the purposes of the public hearing, I'm going to turn the public hearing over to Vice Chair Roberts. For the purposes of the public hearing, she is the acting chair, so all questions and comments should be made through her. Thank you very much, Vice Chair. All yours. Here you go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The process will be, first I'll read the hearing into the record. I'll accept a motion to open the hearing. Then I will read the department details from the checklist. Then the presenter will provide the details. Select board members will ask questions. Citizens will ask questions. I will ask for a motion to close the hearing, and then we will vote on the issue. So with that said, 5-8. A public hearing will be held by the Select Board on May 20th, 2025 at 8:30 p.m. to consider the application of First Motors Incorporated for a Class II license located at 1254 Washington Street, Stoughton, Mass. 02072. The hearing will be conducted at the Great Hall, 3rd floor, Town Hall, 10 Pearl Street, Stoughton, Mass., and via Google Meets, and may be broadcast via Stoughton Media Access Television and live stream. Google Meets video link and telephone connection for the public comment available by calling the Select Board office at 781-341-1300, extension 9212, or email to gperera@stoughton-ma.gov by 4 p.m. the day of the meeting. Paid to the order of Stephen M. Cavey, Chair, Select Board, acting as the local licensing authority. A motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. From the department checklist, the fire department approved, the police department approved, and with the comment that we have no objection to the application, we would ask that the board impose conditions that no sidewalks be obstructed, the breakdown lane not be obstructed, and the view of Washington Street not be obstructed by any of the operations of the business. Going on, the Board of Health approved, Building and Zoning approved. They noted that this was non-conforming use. The Treasury Department approved, and the Water Department approved. Now, hi, please introduce yourself and what your relationship is to the business, please.
My name is. This one? Oh, sorry.
Perfect.
My first one. My name is Faik Ibrahimov. He's my friend Kenan Mensimov. We want to work together. The First Motors want us business, open the business, the used car dealership.
Thank you. I'll open it up to the floor to my fellow Select Board members, and I'll start with my left. Mr. Gito, do you have any questions? I'll go to my far right, Mr. McCrisky. Do you have any questions?
Not a question, Madam Chairman, Vice Chairman, but a statement. I won't be voting for this, and I would ask my colleagues to consider not voting for another used car dealership. We have about 15 different locations in this town that where somebody can buy a used car. I think we're meeting the public good of having the dealerships that we have, and if we're going to look at utilizing land for a better use, having 138 with so many places to buy a used car doesn't give us much of a vision when talking for developers and better use of the land. We have a town construction lot down on the other end of 138. Down there, I know of 1, 2, 3, 4 car places, maybe 5, right in that lower 138 area. So we don't need another one. I mean, enough is enough. We haven't said no yet. Town of Easton has a regulation, a policy by their board where they don't even accept any more applications. And I think we should be doing that. So I will not be voting for this. No, nothing personal about the gentleman. I applaud them trying to do business, but we can only take on so many of these things. We're stuffing them in corners now. We have people that are applying just so they can have an office, so they can move cars from one location to another. This is just not, it's not going in the right direction, in my opinion. It's a good use for our town. We're all talking about trying to bring, good development to the town, and we've got enough used car dealerships. So I would hope that my colleagues would join me in voting against this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCrisky. Mr. Carrara, do you have any comments?
This piece of property was the Capizzoli lot, so it's been in use with Tamsin being there for a long time, and I forget who was there even before him. But that's all I wanted to say. I just wanted to make sure I was looking at the right piece. Thanks for the diagram, too.
It's no longer, I'm sorry, it's no longer belong them, we just bought it, right? Yeah, my name is Fong Tat, and that property is not belong them no more. We just bought it for maybe 5 months ago, and there was a mess. So we did everything what we supposed to do. So we did the whole place and asphalt the whole thing, it's totally different like before. It's like 100% compete. So the license belong to grandfather. That's what I'm thinking. So we try to investment until today, and we put so much effort on the place. I don't know, did anyone to see the place? We did, and if the gentleman say it's not longer license allowed, but that place it's belong to licensed used car. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
No, I didn't say the license I didn't say anything about the license as to what, but I think if you buy a piece of property and you anticipate applying for a license, you should find out if a little bit more up front, and maybe to get the license before you put the money into the property. But we have the authority, on our board to license properties. And again, I think that we are meeting this, and you've heard me say this before, that we are meeting the needs of the public, meeting the needs of the good of the public in many areas. And we define ourselves on how many of these different licenses we give out and what's important to our town. And again, we all know the places there that, whether it's a muffler shop that sell cars, or down beside the town spa they sell cars, Up on 138, they sell cars. Up on 27, they sell cars. There's enough of these around. And when do we, as a board, show our leadership and show a vision for this town on developing for the future when we try to utilize property differently for maybe a building to be put up versus a car dealership? So that's just, again, this isn't something we need anybody. We are the licensing board. We have the authority to say, okay, collectively, we have enough of this. So it's up to my colleagues and whoever, which way you're going to vote. But this is what I believe. We've been pretty good at doing some great things between some housing projects and, and some warehouse projects as well. And just in the recent forums, we've talked briefly about the possibilities of the south end of 138 and the possibilities. So that's just my position. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCrisky. Mr. Carrera.
I agree with Joe to a point, but right now we don't have a policy to fall upon. So this is I know we don't need to, but it would be a good tool to have in this position if we really wanted to do this. It's unfortunate that pre-existing non-conforming has a bigger tooth in the law than even what we can turn them down, because they have every right to take us to court, and I don't feel like going to court over 17 cars. So I think through to you, Madam Chairman, is maybe we should look at getting an idea that if we put together a policy on Class 2 licenses, I think they are getting out of control. Some of the streets are getting hard to get out of because they're all on the corners and stuff like that. So that's what I would say, is that we get something and utilize that the next time around.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carrera. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Cavey.
Thank you so much. So the only question I have is, with a lot of your documents, it looks like the business entity was registered with the state in late or mid-December. Have you sold cars at other locations, or were you setting yourself up for the purpose of taking over this business or running this business? Does that make sense? Just turn your mic on, please, if you don't mind.
Okay, sorry, can you?
Oh, yes, no problem.
Exciting, like little.
Yeah,
Can you say again? Sorry.
Not at all. Don't worry. So I noticed that your the business entity itself, like the business, was registered with the Secretary of State's office in December.
I don't know that.
So it's got your name on the.
Oh yeah, we did the lease. Yeah, in the December. Yeah, but we applied in the January.
Yeah. So I see a screenshot. This is a photocopied document that looks like it was printed off of the internet on 12/17/24. Business entity summary, and it provides all of the information that's registered with the Secretary of State's office. It includes your name as the president and the treasurer.
Yes.
And it appears as though the date of organization documented here is 12/10/2024.
Yes.
Okay, so this business started 2024.
Yeah, we need to make that for apply. That's why we started in the we started everything in the December, and the January we applied, and they said the building need some works, and he did everything after we applied this April.
Got it. Okay, that answers my question. So,
but we were waiting until from the December this.
Started the business in order to you created the business entity.
Yeah.
Start this business now.
Yeah.
Okay, I appreciate it. That was all my only question. I just wanted to
We're almost
understand
waiting
the timeline.
5-6 months waiting.
No problem. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So please provide us a little more detail about the business. So you've been in business, literally your new business entity, for 1 year. Do you have prior experience? How did you choose Stoughton? Just give us a little more detail, please.
Okay. I am in this business since like 2019, more than I think 6 years. I started in the North Chelmsford. I worked a couple years there. And my friends around here in the Cantonati Gallery, that 1450 Washington Street, I was around there and I see that place. And yeah, and I'm I have 6 years experience. I'm not new in this business. I'm doing house that auctions work, everything. Almost, yeah, I know how's the going.
And why did you choose Stoughton? Why did you choose Stoughton?
And my friends around they were Cantonati Gallery, in the Turnpike Street, the 1450 Washington Street, Stoughton, my friends. And when we looking around, we see that place.
Thank you very much. Does the board have any other questions? Nothing? I'll ask the citizens. Citizens in the audience and then online. Mrs. Walsh, yes.
Cynthia Walsh, 1096 Park Street. As a previous speaker said, if you want to have a policy, you come up with a policy. I should hope you'd have a public hearing, make any little changes you need to, and then vote it and publicize it. It's very unfair to these gentlemen, as you pointed out, the business started in December, to all of a sudden say, well, this is it, I've drawn a line. People need warnings about the line. They acted in good faith. I believe they'll continue to act in good faith. And until you develop a policy and vote it as a whole board, I think it's only fair that they get their class 2.
Are there any other comments from the audience? How about online? I don't see anyone's hand raised. None?
Motion to close the hearing.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. What's the wish of the board?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any noes?
Aye.
That would be 4-1. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
We very appreciate it. Thank you so much, everything. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let's move to the next public hearing. The same process. A public hearing will be held by the Select Board on May 20th, 2025 at 8:30 p.m. to consider the application of McLean Energy doing business as Horan Oil to convert tank number 1 from number 2 fuel oil to biofuel located at 125 Simpson Street, Stoughton, Mass. 02072. The hearing will be conducted at the Great Hall, 3rd floor, Town Hall, 10 Pearl Street, Stoughton, Mass., and via Google Meets, and may be broadcast via Stoughton Media Access Television or live stream. Google Meets video link and telephone connection of the public comment available by calling the Select Board office at 781-341-1300, extension 9212, or email to gperera@stoughton-ma.gov by 4 p.m. the day of the meeting. Signed, Stephen M. Cavey, Chair, Select Board, acting of the local licensing authority. The fire department, going through the checklist, the fire department approved. The treasurer approved by saying no taxes owed under the name of the new license. The engineering had recommendations and approval was contingent. And I will read that. One engineering comment approved with recommended restrictions. The applicant had filed for a building permit last year, 2024, with a number of site development improvements to enable a new biofuel blending industrial processing operation. This includes sales and distributions biofuel to the public in addition to home heating oil. The site also engaged in the upgrading of the secondary containment provisions serving the two existing above-ground fuel storage tanks, AST, including new structural retaining walls, stairways, and platforms. Stormwater improvements were also performed, including the installation of a water treatment swell and a new line storm scepter unit to treat storm water runoff and improve water quality. The project proposal involved an extensive review process in the engineering department of engineered plans prepared by the registered professional engineer and discussions. To date, the finished work as constructed has not been certified by a registered professional engineer to be conducted in substantial conformance with the, let me change the page, approved plans. This is done by the submission of a letter of certification stating same, and if applicable, a description of any deviations performed during construction from the approved plan. They went further to say approval is contingent upon the following conditions. Conformance with the preceding conditions of approval is achieved by the submission of a letter to the town and stamped by a registered professional engineer in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. A final as-built plan of the site with grades, location, and piping specifications should be submitted for review, or preferably both. This is in order to confirm that the construction project as built was reviewed and demonstrated to be constructed in accordance with the approved plans of record. This certification letter and documentation should be forthcoming from the applicant's designing engineer to the attention of the office. Another engineer stated in his comment section as a restriction, recommended restriction, upgrades to the facility and containment walls were recently completed at this facility. And as-built plan and certification from the design engineer stating that the upgrades were installed per the approved design plans shall be submitted to the engineering department for review and approval. With that, please introduce yourself and what is your relationship to Horn All, doing business as Horn All.
My name, whoa, is it too loud? My name is Bob Coluccio. I'm with Web Engineering Associates, and I have with me Scott McFarland, who represents McFarland Energy.
I'm Scott McFarland, Vice President at McFarland Energy.
What we're here to do tonight is originally we were going to amend the license to store biofuel. Now, one correction in what I was hearing earlier, we're not going to be processing biofuel. We're just storing it, and it's blended with the number 2 fuel oil when it goes into the truck. But it's not. We're not creating or changing the state of the biofuel. It comes in as an ASTM standard. It's stored and then it's blended with number 2 fuel oil. And if any of you have, burn number 2 fuel oil for heat, these days it probably has a percentage of biofuel in it. So in order to, what we wanted to do is they have two tanks there, a 200,000 gallon tank and a 500,000 gallon tank. And what we want to do is convert the 200,000 gallon tank so that it can be used to store biofuel. And that takes a license change because the license has on it where you have to state what class of liquids you're going to store. Biofuel is a much more difficult to burn than number 2 fuel oil. And as an example, you all are familiar with gasoline, and NFPA, gasoline is a class 1 liquid. Number 2 fuel oil is a class 2 liquid. Motor oil is a class 3B liquid. And so is the biofuel that we'll be storing in this tank. So ultimately, we're creating there'll be a safer liquid being stored in it. And in order to do that, obviously, we need to amend the license. And I think in the process of determining what we needed to do to amend the license, it was realized that nobody could find the original license. Now, the tank that we're going to be converting has been there since 1957. So I'm not sure. And then another tank was installed in 1980, and that was done under the supervision and approval of the state Department of Public Safety. So I don't know really what happened with the license. I just know that we're wanting to correct the situation.
Thank you for that description. May I have a motion to open the public hearing, please?
So made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. To the select board members, do you have any questions to the presenters?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just tell me the relationship with the two companies. I'm familiar with McFarland, vehicle capacity, amount of vehicles, area covered, what this venture is, just.
Sure. Yeah. So I've worked at the company since 2000. We purchased Horn Oil when Jim Horn retired in 2023, and right now we're basically Metro West, 20 miles of Dedham for the most part for the fuel delivery. For fuel oil delivery trucks, we have about 17. But our vision, is to get cleaner, greener, more carbon neutral, and this is the pathway for us. A lot of the terminals are closing, so now we have our own storage so we can blend ourselves, starting at a blend of 20% and hopefully getting up to 50% over the next couple of years so we can reduce carbon emissions. So it's part of the company plan to reduce emissions.
So this is more a venue of McFarland, and how is the relationship between you two? Is this a consultant working for the company?
Correct.
So you're the consultant working for McFarland?
Yeah,
so.
I work for Webb Engineering Associates. Our primary business is energy storage.
Okay, so this is a McFarland enterprise?
Yes, correct.
With a location in Stoughton. And what other locations do you have?
Our main office is in Dedham, and we keep one truck there, but our oil trucks are in Stoughton. And we also have an Acton office with 2 trucks. And then we do HVAC all over the state, but for fuel delivery, it's primarily Dedham and Stoughton. Okay. We also have a Maple Lab location for HVAC on Maple Street, too.
On Maple Street?
In Stoughton, yes.
Okay. Where in Maple?
154, near the metal scrapyard.
Oh, never seen the trucks up there. So how many
it's
trucks?
mostly the service trucks for installation.
Okay.
Not
How many fuel delivery trucks are in Stoughton? Just the former Horn Oil trucks?
We have some of our own there because I think we have, let's see, 1, 2, 3. I think we have probably 7 in that garage. We keep them all garaged there.
Okay. Excise tax, all those vehicles paying excise tax in Stoughton?
Yep. And then I think we had 2 in Maple Street, so it's all Stoughton, the majority of the oil trucks. I think we keep 1 in Dedham, so.
Yeah, okay. All right, I was just curious. All right,
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCrisky. Mr. Carrera, do you have any questions? No. Questions? Mr. Gito, do you have any questions?
The engineering department is looking for as-built plans. How long will it take for you to produce them?
Excuse me?
How long will it take you to produce them and get them to the engineering department?
It could be tomorrow. Very quickly, because we were, I'm not sure how it happened. It was someone else in my office, and I think he may have thought that the project was still going on because of the biofuel. But I'll be on the phone with him, not on my ride home tonight, but first thing in the morning to tell him to get the affidavit, because he oversaw, he was here quite a bit while the construction was going on. So I would say, at least by Monday at the latest.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gito. Mr. Carrara, did you have another question? Yeah. Okay.
Sorry. It's probably more a question to the consultant. On this application, it also reads that explosives can be stored. We don't have any of that on the horizon, are you?
Well, it should say 0 on the application.
Well, just making sure that, you're not coming back, because I'd like to see that stricken. I can't even believe that would even be on the same thing in near tanks like that.
That's a state-generated
Yep.
form, but some towns have their own form, and
Right.
they also have believe it or not, they also have explosives, but I don't deal in explosives.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Chairman Cavey, do you have any questions?
Yeah, the only question. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. The only question I have is, there was, engineering had a number of notes. There's times when the applicants have received these in advance, and sometimes they haven't. Have you had a chance to look through these notes ahead of time?
No, I have not. This is the first I've heard of them. So I'd like to get a copy and then at least make sure that we're meeting all the requirements.
Sure. I would, we'll see what the will of the board is, but if there's an approval, it'll probably be approved upon, contingent upon, fulfilling those requirements. But I did want to make sure that if you, occasionally people had got them in advance and they said, I've already taken care of all those. So if that was the case, I just wanted to know that.
Well, they may have. I've seen as-built plans. I have set in my computer. It may have just been that they were never delivered, I guess. I'm going to find out.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
It will be dealt with.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll ask if the citizens in the audience have any questions. None in the audience. I'll see you online. No questions online. I accept a motion to close the public hearing, please.
So made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. What is the wish of the board?
Motion to approve.
With the recommendations
Recommendations contained.
from the engineers? A motion was made and seconded by Mr. Carrera. All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. It has been approved with those recommendations.
Who would I call to get a copy of those?
You would call Ms. Herrera, right, Gilda? Can you give her your telephone number?
Yeah, so it would be the engineering department.
Oh, the engineering department, okay.
Mark Tisdale, engineer.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, good night. And I turn the gavel back to you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Let's get through the consent agenda. We have 4 items. First item, approval of open session minutes, a meeting of May 6, 2025. Item B, application for 1 day beer and wine license for Club Louis de Camoche Holy Ghost on June 7th, 2025. Item C, application for a license for a parade, Club Louis de Camoche Holy Ghost on June 8th, 2025. Item D, request for use of electronic billboard to advertise the Stoughton Juneteenth event. And, okay.
Second.
Okay, motion to approve made by Mr. Gito, seconded by Mr. McCrisky. Want to go over that during the comments, or do you want to do it now?
We can do it now, or I can
Perfect,
go
go
in
for
the...
it.
Hi, I just wanted to remind everyone that the town of Stoughton will have their Juneteenth event on June 19th. It's a day of recognition for the forgotten female soldiers. We have a keynote speaker, and we have a lot of activities, and we have activities focused on calming mind, body, and service. We have high school step dancers, we have gaming for teens and tweens, we have youth Olympics, we'll have the Stoughton High School's jazz combo performing, we'll have the Mean River Blues Band performing, and we will also have local vendors. And the committees, the committee members are myself, Betty Sabri, who's the vice chair, Christine at the library, Janet Crimmins at VNA, Teresa Dolph at the VNA, Michael Hartman, Pat Yanikoski, Sharon Johnson at the Veteran Services, and Brian Turner, along with the SCOC members, Stoughton Equal Opportunity members. I hope to see you there. All are invited. It's a free event. There is no charge. It will be at the Stoughton High School. Thank you very much, and the time is 11 a.m. to 1:30. Please look for the flyer with all of the information. We have it here, either online or at Town Hall. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. All right. Thank you very much. So on the motion to approve the consent agenda, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, seeing none, we move on to the next order of business. But before we do, actually, I just want to remind people of an upcoming parade. This is the Memorial Day Parade. I want to make sure I get the date and time correct. It's Monday. Oh, that's not it. Apologies. It is Monday, but the where are you? Thank you. So we actually have a couple of different events. First, on Saturday, May 24th, all veterans' graves will be reflagged at the Holy Sepulchre and Evergreen cemeteries. Those who wish to put flags on graves can meet at 10 a.m. at either cemetery. The Stoughton Veterans Graves Officer will be at the Holy Sepulchre, and the Director of Veterans Services will be at Evergreen. And refreshments will be served at the VFW, which is at Seaver Street. This is a new address following the reflagging. Memorial Day Parade will form at 8:30 a.m. on Monday, May 26th at the Public Works on Central Street and leave there at 9 o'clock. The route will go from the Public Works to the Holy Sepulchre Cemetery for 2 ceremonies, then to the Pearl Street Cemetery for a ceremony. The parade will then proceed to the Stoughton Town Hall for a ceremony and wreath laying at the Memorial Bell. Ceremonies will begin at 10:15 a.m. The parade will then proceed through Stoughton Square to Faxon Veterans Memorial Park for ceremonies at the 2 memorials. And the parade will then proceed to Washington Street and on to Evergreen Cemetery for 2 ceremonies at the GRR lot and the American Legion burial site. A collation will follow at VFW Post 1645 at 14 Seaver Street. There'll also be a Memorial Square dedication at the corner of Park Street and Fano Drive at 1 o'clock on Monday, May 6th to honor Albert Stefano. A Memorial Square dedication at the corner of Chestnut and Pleasant Street will be held at 2 p.m. to honor Joseph Gambrazio. I get nervous. Bunch of Z's together in the middle, you never know what you're going to get. But so I just want to make sure everybody was aware of those events. So select board comments. Let's start with Mr. McCrisky. None? Mr. Carrera?
I have none, Mr.
Mr. Gito? None. And Vice Chair Roberts?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. My comment is regarding the MBTA Advisory Board's Operating Budget Oversight Committee. As a reminder, I was appointed by the Select Board to be on the MBTA Advisory Board. I was voted as chair by the Operating Budget Oversight Committee. The committee has started their review of the fiscal year 26 budget, which was originally presented with a deficit of $168 million. The MBTA is planning to plug some of the deficit with reserve funds. I plan to vote against this action. They're also planning to hire an additional 1,000 staff workers. So I plan to vote against it once again, and I hope my fellow members of this committee do the same. In turn, I will request a balanced budget. Thank you very much. That's my update.
Thank you so much. So the only comment beyond the ones I've already made make is last night of town meeting, I wasn't able to attend. Felt bad about that. I know a lot was accomplished, and it was a long road. It was nice to be at the finish line, to make it all the way to the finish line, but I couldn't do it. But I do want to just express both my respect and my gratitude for the members of the town meeting who worked their way through a lot of articles and lots of ups and downs. So it was exciting, but I think we got a lot of great stuff accomplished. I also want to extend my gratitude and respect to the members of Town Hall, department heads, the town manager, the assistant town manager, town accountant. The list can kind of go on and on. I don't want to leave anybody out, but there was a heavy lift over months. It's half the year getting ready for this. So there's a lot of work in private before everyone sees it. So it probably don't, I would assume a lot of people don't appreciate how much work goes into it by the people who work for the town. But it's a tremendous lift, and I am grateful to all the work they do and the guidance they provide to us. So thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If I could just add to your comment there,
Yeah.
to include that I think we should recognize, and I know that some people seem to criticize me when I say this, but it's fact, is when you mention the employees, the leadership that's here, I've been here a while and a couple other people have, and it's definitely different now. And it comes through leadership of the town manager and his staff. We have a bunch of department heads working well together. And the last few years, for those of us that have been around for a while, we've done a lot better in the budget presentations, which have reduced how many challenges there are out of the budget. And we've been on a pretty good record of more or less getting everything we've requested from town meeting through giving them realistic figures for the budget increase when required, and as well as how the money's going to get utilized and how it's implemented. So through you, Mr. Chairman, to the town manager and to your staff, I think that it needs to be said. The residents who don't follow local politics and come in here should know how we're making improvements every year since you've been here, and a board that supports the town manager, a strong town manager who's implementing a great staff, and it's right across the board. So please take that back from me to your staff. Will do. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
Actually, we have an executive session.
Okay.
So if it's okay, I'd like to.
Oh, town manager.
After all,
See how soon after the accolades you forget about us. Thank you, Mr. Gito.
A couple of things. I would first of all thank you for those comments, but I'd like to thank town meeting members. That is the legislative body of this community, and this year I found that legislative body to be incredibly prepared, very civil, very kind in their comments, and that's how the work of government gets done. And so anyone out there that serves as a town meeting member, I would like to thank and congratulate them for their preparation. I only have one announcement, Mr. Chairman, and it's from our Veteran Service Officer, Sharon Johnson, and it reads as follows. I would like to thank all who attended the Hometown Hero banner event on Friday, May 9th, where certificates of recognition were presented to the veterans and/or their families of the 44 new banners this year. It was a great success with over 130 veterans or family members in attendance. The town of Stoughton now proudly displays 142 banners throughout our main streets. More information about this program can be found on the Town of Stoughton Veterans website. There is also a list on that website of the locations of each banner. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. And I also, just in the event that there are any citizens' comments, I want to ask if there are any. Ms. Walsh.
I know it's getting late. I was happy to see at town meeting that the equal opportunity consultant survived the meeting. And I'd like to make a request. I know it's important that we educate the people who hire and fire, and also the folks that are going to be their fellow workers. But there's another group we should consider providing some education to, and that's the people that volunteer to be on the various town committees. If you look at the list, they're predominantly male, white, and over 50. Many grew up in a different community, and they have a different perspective based on their youth, which is very different from the kind of environment that today's youth are growing up in. So that there are some gaps in understanding or expectations that need to be filled in. And one of them is how you treat people who come before various boards. As you know, I've been going to thousands of meetings here in Stoughton. It's very important that any petitioner feel welcome. And when certain people are greeted with, oh, hi, Greg, we all know Greg. Greg's been around for years. What do you want, Greg? And then the next person comes up, and his name or her name is stumbled over, and they're kind of grilled that Greg was not grilled. That sends an expectation. It just gives folks that are newer to the community a kind of an off feeling, that because they're not Greg and they're not well known, that maybe their petition won't be given as much favorable outlook. And it's simple. When people come before boards, you just ask them to introduce themselves, as you did at least once tonight, and listen very carefully. I know that many names are difficult for those of us who grew up with Kellys and Walshes and Collinses, and I've even heard people mispronounce Mr. Gito's name. That's just a simple thing, and everyone does it. Greg does it, and the new person does it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we have two items for the first item, executive session minutes, meeting of April 15th, 2025. And item B, executive session pursuant to open meeting law. Sorry. Thank you. Thank you very much. So I'm going to read that again. Item B, executive session pursuant to open meeting law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to potential litigation concerning the Stoughton Media Access Corp. If an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating or litigating position of the board, and the chair so declares. And I do so declare. Is there a motion to enter executive session?
Second.
Okay, motion was made by Mr. McCrisky, seconded by Vice Chair Roberts. All in favor, Mr. Gito? Yes. Ms. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Carrera?
Yes.
And Mr. McCrisky? Yes. I vote yes as well. We will be adjourning from executive session and not re-entering open session. So thank you all very much and have a wonderful evening.